Welcome. On behalf of Georgia United Credit Union, I want to welcome you to today's financial education seminar. Uh, Georgia United is proud to offer these to our workplace partners. We're going to learn about managing your money, understanding debt, credit, and also how to prevent identity theft. My name is Ken Shanowski. I'm a Senior Business Development Officer here at Georgia United Credit Union. I'm also a certified credit union financial counselor. Uh, I like to tell people that when they come to these seminars, that it's not a timeshare presentation. I'm not going to try and sell you anything. Basically, this is purely about education because it's long been said that credit unions have two balance sheets, one financial and one social. Education, of course, is a part of this calculus as it's one of the missions of the credit union. As an educated member benefits by getting the best loan or investment deal, and the organization gains and maintains financial strength through an informed membership. I came to the credit union world about 10 years ago. I'm actually a retired high school teacher. So I bring into these seminars a purely educational viewpoint. What I want to have happen is when you walk out of this seminar or you go back, you institute maybe 1, 2, 3, 5, 10 of the things I tell you. You probably won't be able to do everything, but it's a start because there are things we learn in our life. For example, myself, geometry. Geometry, I've never used since high school. And my high school teacher is probably pretty happy about that because I was the world's worst geometry student. But I do know this, we use our financial accounts every day of our life. Our checking accounts, our savings accounts, our credit cards, our mortgages, car loans, whatever you have, student loans, we use those every day of our life. So this is a life skill that we need to teach people in high school, post-secondary, wherever they are going to get it. This is something that we want people to do better because it affects their loan rates, it affects their debt, it affects every decision they make. So what I'd like to start out with, and one of the bases for the questions I get is what's the difference between a bank and a credit union? Well, I like to tell people that 95%, and that's an arbitrary number I came up with, is we do everything, a credit union does everything a bank does. Car loans, mortgages, credit cards, savings accounts, checking accounts. The 5% differential in my mind is that credit unions are not for profit. Banks are for profit. They're owned by shareholders. They're owned by Wall Street. They have to generate all that income to make Wall Street happy. Whereas credit unions are not for profit. Now, granted, we're not for loss either, but we do all those same services, but the income we generate pays our employees, and then we pass the savings back on to our members. And so that's the differentiation. For example, in 2018, the big six banks made $111 billion in profit. That's a large number. Well, because they want to make their shareholders happy, and by getting all that profit, then their stock price goes up. We're going to talk a little bit about money management today, basics of credit, a spending plan, debt reduction plan, and extra income. Some names I want you to know. Clark Howard. He's a consumer guru out of Atlanta. You see him on HLN. He has Facebook, email newsletters. I want you to start following these people. These people give you excellent tips and tricks and things to do throughout your life. For example, a few years ago, there was a hack at Equifax. Well, Clark Howard had the steps that you needed to do to freeze your credit, what to be aware of, and all the different things. Jean Chatzky, she's a consumer reporter on the Today Show. Excellent source of information just to manage your money better. You have to become a student of financial education. This is your money. We want to help you keep it. Here are some warning signs that you might have too much debt. You might be paying bills late. You're only making minimum payments. You're at or near limit on your credit cards. You have no idea how much you owe. You should always have an idea on a continual basis. What does my debt bucket look like? How much, if I added everything together, what is that number? People get into trouble sometimes because they don't understand that number. They don't have that number. Maybe you're denied credit or credit purchases. You use cash advances to pay other bills. you get calls from collection agencies, or more of your total income is going toward your debt than other things. So that those might be warning signs. So what I want you to do is I want you to set goals. Set SMART goals, specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and time-bound goals. Each year, you should have a goal. By the end of this year, I want to have this goal accomplished. Maybe it's a debt reduction. Maybe it's something like, my debt is at this level right now. I wanted to get it to this level. And then you need to have 3 and 5 year goals as you move forward. You want to sit there and say, gee, I may not need a car right now, but maybe in 3 years, I'm going to need a car. So what steps can I have today? Because what people, by setting goals, how many of us have ever gone to a store and we've bought something and we're not even to the car, and yet we have this sick feeling in our stomach, buyer's remorse. We're not sure if we should have just done that. Well, it's because you're not aware of what your goals are and you're not sure of making this purchase is going to impact your goals. So by setting goals, it's kind of like having a little angel on your shoulder. If I buy this, how's that going to impact my goals for the rest of the year? So always set the short, intermediate, and long-term goals. How many of you order your credit report? You should. What is your credit report? What's on it? Who can look at it? How do you get it? What does your credit report say about you? Credit report is a snapshot of whether financial institutions can trust you, because that's basically what credit is. It's trust. We're giving you this money. We trust you to pay us back. And throughout the course of your life, can you be trusted? That's what a credit score is. It's like being a parent. You trust your children until maybe they do something that doesn't allow you to trust them. And then you kind of have to ground them. Maybe you take their phone away, maybe you make them come home earlier, and then you have to rebuild the trust. Well, that's the same thing as a credit report. Credit report says, you've been given money. Can we trust you? You get 2 free credit reports each year from the big 3 credit reporting agency, Experian, Equifax, and TransUnion. Those things are free to you, and you can get them twice a year. And what I always tell people is, make it easy on yourself. Do it on New Year's Day and 4th of July. Those are holidays most of us have off. Happy New Year, order your credit report. Happy birthday, America, order your credit report. Those are the things or your birthday and your half birthday, whatever's easiest for you, but they're free. And why do you want to order them? Well, here's the deal. You need to verify the information on them. Your name, your address, your social security number. Everything has to be correct. You also want to verify that all the accounts listed on there are your accounts. Maybe, what you don't want to have happen is you come in to a financial institution to apply for a credit card or a car loan or a mortgage and have there be a mistake. Like maybe your social security number is one number off, or there's a defaulted credit card on there that you've never had. Well, somebody has stolen your identity and is, run up a charge, and that's negatively impacting your credit score. Now, those things can be fixed, but it's going to take between 60 and 90 days for that to get fixed on your credit report. So in the scenario of you wanting to buy a car, you won't be able to purchase that car until those credit reporting errors are fixed. If you're trying to get a home loan, you won't be able to get the home loan, the mortgage. And they're not gonna save that house for you. What's going to happen is you're going to lose that home. So you need to be proactive and order your credit reports twice a year. Well, there's also things where you can kind of monitor your credit score. CreditKarma.com and SavvyMoney.com are 2 great ways to view your credit score. Now, they're close. They're not the exact algorithm that the credit reporting agencies have. So while it may say, this is your Equifax score or your Experian score, they're in the ballpark. Just know that it's not the exact score. Do you know the 5 factors that make up your credit score? There are 5 components that make up your credit score. And these are really important because they're so easily attainable. If you just monitor, and that's a good thing about Credit Karma and Savvy Money, is they will break down in each of these 5 categories how you're doing. What are you doing in each of these categories? So 35% of your credit score comes from simply, do you pay your bills on time? Do you pay your bills on time? It's easy. It's attainable. Over 1/3. Do you pay your bills on time? And I'm not talking about if you're 1 or 2 days late paying your bills. I'm talking about when you're reported as being either 30, 60, or 90 days late paying a bill. That is what you don't want to have happen. If you pay a bill late, on average, one time and you're reported 30 days late, your score will drop around 80 points. And that's a huge hit. You could have done all the right things in a credit score. Credit scores range, usually from about 350 to 850. But 80 points is a big differential. It can take you, say, if you have 750, which is an A+ credit score, it can take you down to 670, which means you're in the C- range of credit scores, and that's going to impact the interest rate that you receive. So you should always pay your bills on time. If you ever run into a situation where you can't pay your entire bill on time, make a phone call. Let the financial institution know what's going on in your world, because all we know is what we don't know. And if you don't pay your bills on time, then you get reported. Try and set up a payment plan with them. Sometimes, financial institutions really want their money to get paid back to them, and they will work with you. I've never had someone contact me later and say, hey, this financial institution wouldn't work with me on my repayment plan. It's important to have conversations with people and let them know what's going on, because we all have those life happens moments, those unexpected expenses, all those things that kind of like, oh my goodness, I didn't really expect this. So this is why you need to make sure that people are aware that you want to make good on the money that you've been lent. 30% is how much do you owe to your creditors? Do you have everything, all your credit cards jacked up to the what you have available, so there's no room? Because as you say you had a $10,000 card, all right? Is it all the way up at 90%? So you have a balance of $9,000 on it? Well, that scares creditors, because what if something happens? Again, you have those life happens moments. Your furnace goes out, your air conditioning goes out, you have septic tank repairs. Something goes on in your world where you have a big expense. How are you going to pay for things? All right. So as you carry more of a balances, that lowers your credit score. Ideally, you want to keep your credit card balances and you total up all your credit cards, total it up and have it try and be below 25% of the available balance. For example, you have $10,000 available to you on all your credit cards. Try and, perhaps one of your SMART goals is, I want to get all my balances down below $2,500 of what I owe to everybody on a monthly basis. Ideally, we'd like you to have no balance, but sometimes, again, things happen and you have to carry a balance forward. Try and work to get your balance as low as possible. Below 25% is the A range. B to C is 26 to 50%. And then once you get above 50% utilization, that's when financial institutions are kind of like, you're getting a little extended there. We're going to have to tap the brakes on you in just a little bit. All right. Again, so 30% is how much do you owe to your creditors? Length of credit history, 15%. Someone like myself, who's a little more seasoned, has a longer credit file than perhaps someone who's in their 20s, who hasn't had that much credit. And we're just trying to figure out whether we can trust them or not with a car loan or a mortgage. Myself, there's a big, long history of trust. And so I'm in a more positive light because I've had more credit and used it wisely throughout. New credit, 10%. Every time you go apply for a credit card or a car loan or a mortgage, your credit score drops. Why? Because the financial institutions are just kind of tapping the brakes and wondering, hey, what's going on? This is why it's important, for example, when you apply for a car loan or a credit card or a mortgage, not to apply at 10 different places. Nothing freaks well, there are a lot of things that freak the financial industry out, but one of those things is if you go and start applying at 10 different places just to see all these, different offers that you get from these credit cards. You should do your research first on which car loan or institution you want to go through for your credit card, and then apply to that one place. Okay, back in 2008, 2009, there was a recession. It was a very bad recession. And what you had people doing was they were going to four different banks, credit unions, and whoever they could, and getting a bunch of different credit cards because they were afraid of losing their job. And then the financial institutions are kind of freaking out because they're like, okay, what's going on? Why do they need all this credit? Well, the people were like, well, I'm going to use one credit card for my mortgage and one credit card for my car loan and one credit card to pay for my children's college. And so they were trying to set themselves up. And that will drop your credit score immensely by doing all those different applications. And then finally, the types of credit currently in use. Is it a healthy mix? It's kind of like myself. I have a trail mix, as I call it. I have a, car loan and a mortgage and credit card. So I have all these different things. Well, one of the things, again, someone who's younger, perhaps, in their 20s, they might not have had a mortgage yet. They might not have had a car loan. Maybe they're still using the car that their mom and dad bought for them for college. So what you want to do is understand that I have more of a healthy mix of credit products. All right. So why is this important? Why is a credit score important? Again, it speaks to trust. But for example, let's say you want to go buy a $25,000 car, all right? And you want to finance it for 5 years, 60 months. Well, the current rate of about 3.5% would yield a monthly payment of $456, which means over the 5-year life of that loan, you will be paying back to us $27,348. Which means only a little over $2,000 in interest are paying back to the credit union. That's not a lot of interest. But conversely, if you haven't done the right things in your credit history and you have a loan that has a 16%, which is kind of at the upper end of what our interest rates are, your monthly payment will be $608. So you can see that's over $150 more every month. And then over the life of the loan, you'll pay us back $36,477. So you see there, $150 a month. And over the life of the loan, you're going to pay us back a little over $11,000 in interest. That's a $9,000 differential. That's real money. That's, I don't know about you, but I could use $9,000 for something else in my life. This is why your credit score is important. This is real life applications. And that's why it should be some part of your goal is to try and get your credit score up as high as you possibly can. So when you go to do these things, these are real dollar savings. Think about it in a home. You go to buy a home, you could be tens of thousands of dollars in interest difference just by having a better credit score. That is real. This is real money. This is real how it really applies to you. This is why this life skill is so important. All right. How many of you track your spending? Do any of you? Do you look at your statements every month? I know I should probably do it above board. How many of us get our statements every month and are like, okay, delete, the e-statements comes, we just click on it, check the box and move it right to the trash. Well, here's something I want you to do. Okay. There are different types of tracking your spending: online banking, computer programs, receipt method, envelope method, checkbook ledger. But what I'd like you to do is at the beginning of a month that's pretty neutral. I'm not talking about November, December, that's kind of holiday-ish, but a month that you have regular expenses in. I want you to put a pad or a spiral notebook next to your bed. And every night before you go to bed, I want you to write down everything you spent that day. And what's going to happen is at the end of the month, I want you to look at that. And you're going to say, oh my goodness, I had no idea I spent that much on that. It's because we don't see it in front of our face. And you're going to be like, oh, wow, I spent $100 on eating out this month. Maybe next month, I can try and trim it to 80. And that could be a goal. That could be a SMART goal. And then, and I'm going to tell you a little later, how you can use that $20 to make real savings, which $20 doesn't seem like a lot, but in the scenario I'm going to give you in a little while, it makes a huge difference. All right. So so track your spending. There are mobile apps that help you track your spending on Manila and Expensify. There's computer programs like Quicken, Mint, and Credit Karma. Utilize those tools. See where your money's going. And one of the things you need to do too is you need to set budget guidelines. If you Google budget guidelines, there's going to be 12 pages of budget guidelines. I use this example here. just because it's very specific. All right. You want to set budget guidelines that are very specific. You don't want to lump a bunch of stuff into like 4 or 5 different categories because then you kind of lose track of what's in that category. So, for example, now this is percent of income net. Okay. So after taxes. And don't freak out because I always get the people, well, my home is more than 35% of my income. And that's great. That's wonderful. But what you have to realize is that if you spend more in one category, you have to take it from somewhere else. Where people get into trouble is perhaps they're spending 45% of their income on their mortgage or their rent or whatever, but they haven't made adjustments down the line into their other categories. So always try and track. It's always good too to kind of look and see how much you're doing. And that way you can move things around. So these are the top spending leaks people have. So number 15, and I like to go from bottom up, paying too much for your auto insurance. You should always competitively shop your auto insurance. Every year around my birthday, I always look around just to make sure I'm not paying too much for auto insurance. You should always go onto the marketplace and try and find those things that will help you save money. It's kind of like credit cards or checking accounts. Why do people not change these things? Because they perceive it to be difficult, when in reality, it's not difficult at all. You need to be competitive with shop. 14, buying new instead of used. Well, one of the things you can do is you can buy a new car, which let's say a Honda Accord for $25,000, or you can buy a gently used Honda Accord for maybe $17,000. Or, one of the things is, my daughter, when she was in high school, we used to utilize something called Plato's Closet, where she would have clothes, she'd outgrow them, we'd take it to the store, we'd get credits, and then she could buy newer, gently used clothes that were more in her size. Goodwill. Goodwill is another place. You can go there, you're going to a Jimmy Buffett concert. You can go to Goodwill and pay $3 for a Hawaiian shirt, or you can go online and spend $30 to $35 for a shirt that you may wear once or twice in your entire life. Sometimes you can buy used things that are just as good and cheaper. Shopping impulsively, 30-day rule. All right. Sometimes you can't wait 30 days to make a purchase. Your washing machine goes out. Now, unless you really want to go to the laundromat for 30 days, you probably need to go buy a washer and dryer. But sometimes you just need to tap the brakes. What I like to tell people is either online or you're at the mall, sometimes you need to walk away. You need to, hey, there's this item that's on sale. You're thinking about buying it. Well, you know what? Go walk around. Take a breath. Think about your goals. Think about the angel on your shoulder. If I buy this, does that work with what I do? It doesn't mean going out and getting like a cup of coffee and a cookie, because then you just spent the money that you were actually saving by making the purchase. But what you want to do is you want to take a breath. All right. Number 12, collecting stuff you don't need. Otherwise known as late night, and Amazon and eBay are not your friends. Okay? Because why? Because then we start seeing things. Oh, there's that thing that, oh my goodness, it's the Beanie Baby that my child used to have, and I'm going to buy it for him for a great birthday present. And then you start buying stuff that you don't need. Okay? Why? Because there's that emotional connection to that event. All right? 11 and 9, paying unnecessary bank fees or using out-of-network ATMs. You use an out-of-network ATM, you get $20 out. It's $4 from one institution and $4 from the other institution. And suddenly that $20 that you got out cost you $28. So that's a spending leak. You should never pay for your accounts. At the credit union, all our accounts are free. Okay? They should all be free. You should never pay for the right to have a checking account. I was reading this study recently that said that on average, people who make less than $30,000 a year pay on average $31 a month in fees to have a savings and checking account. Whereas people who make over $30,000 a year pay on average $9. Why? Because financial institutions take advantage sometimes of the people with less to try and generate profit. So you should never have to pay for your accounts. Number 10, requesting faster shipping. Sometimes you have to remember requesting faster shipping is a profit generator for these companies. You can pay extra to get 2-day shipping on Amazon, or you can have free shipping. One of the things I did when I bought a new home recently is I needed a shower head, and I also needed the covering for the spigot. So what I did is I did an experiment. Because, I was always curious of, you order things and get free shipping, but it seems to come sooner than what they initially tell you. Well, that's why, because they want to push you and give you a gentle nudge like, oh, I really don't want to wait till the end of next week to get something. I'm just going to pay the extra money and get it here in 2 days. They bank on that immediacy that we want. So I ordered the shower head and I ordered the cover for the spigot. And one I paid $2 or 2 days shipping, and the other one I had free shipping. And do you know they came on the same day? There was no differentiation. So again, a lot of these companies, Walmart, for example, if you spend $50, we'll give you free shipping. But here's the thing, if you only need a $15 belt, you could be out the door at $20 while paying for shipping. But then, hey, if you spend $30 more, you get free shipping. And then you start thinking, well, maybe I need socks and t-shirts or whatever. And you end up paying $52, but hey, you got free shipping when you could have been out the door at $20 and paid for shipping. So that's how they entice you to get those profit generators. All right. Again, number 8, eating out. We eat out a lot. Those are things that we really try and get a handle on. It's okay to treat yourself, but at the end of a long day, what becomes a pattern is, I really don't feel like going home and cooking tonight. Let's just go out and grab something. And then at the end of the month, when you track your spending and you're looking at that sheet and you say, oh my goodness, we went out to eat a lot. Well, that's when you need to make a little bit of a change, right? Number 7, buying brand name products. You can buy generics or you can buy brand name. For example, myself, I buy the frozen vegetables of the grocery store I go to. They're just as good to me as the name brand, and I'm okay with that. Maybe there are things you're okay with. Maybe it's generic macaroni and cheese, or those things you can save money. Those are real dollars you can save. So look and see. You can buy regular Claritin, or you can buy the drugstore brand of Claritin. Check with your pharmacist. See if there are things that will cost less money. Okay, the ingredients are pretty much dead on the same across the board between the two different products. You're just paying for the packaging and the name. Number 6, paying for cable. Cable TV is a spending leak. Why? Because they bundle things together. I'm very technology challenged, and I'll tell you this. You can be out the door for a lot less money by having your internet and your streaming TV done through your television. It is, if I can figure out how to do it, everybody in this room can figure out how to do it. And granted, I'm the one who always has to call my daughter and have her explain things to me on a month-to-month basis because I forget what she told me the month before. Cable TV is a spending leak. Try and do those things that will help you save money. Number 5, carrying credit card debt. If you have credit card debt, the interest off the credit card debt is a spending leak. You need to be aware of that. I'll come back to number 4 in a minute. If 1 and 2, you pay too much for housing, you pay too much for your car costs, going back to your budget guidelines, that's a spending leak. You're paying too much for those things, it's going to affect you down the line. Number 3, grocery shopping without a list. How many of us have ever gone to the grocery store either without a list or when we're hungry, right? All of us. And what happens? Well, bad things happen. Things start jumping into our cart because we start smelling things and we're hungry. And it's one of those things that when the new circular comes out every week, I like to make my list so I know exactly what I'm there for. So, because then I just get what's on my list, stick to the list, and I'm out the door. All right. Number 4, buying coffee. So I was doing a class one time, and it was a high school class, and it was a financial education class, and we were talking about. I asked the kids, how many of you go out to coffee, and go to a national chain and get coffee? And kids raised their hands. And I said, I'm curious, keep your hands up. If it doesn't apply, drop your hand. I said, how many of you go twice a week? A few hands dropped. 3 times a week, a few more hands dropped. 4 times a week, a few more hands dropped. And there was this girl in the back of the class, and she's got her arm up and giving me one of these. And I said, 5 times a week, 6 times a week, 7 times a week, and she dropped her hand. And I was fascinated, and I said, hey, question for you. You go to, get coffee 6 days a week? Yes, sir. oh, and I said, I have to find out more about this. And I said, how do you pay for this? And she said, well, my parents give me allowance. And I said to him, well, first of all, don't get anywhere near my children because you obviously get more in allowance than I give my kids, and I don't want them hearing how much you get. But what do you get? And she's like, soy, mocha, blah, blah, blah. And I said, how much does that cost? And she said, $5. And I said, okay, so then I was intrigued. I said, so you go 6 days a week and spend $5. So you're spending $30 a week. Yes, sir. Okay. Now, there are two things teachers know, whether they admit it or not. The first here is that they all know how many weeks in a school year. And it's 36 because there's 18 weeks in each semester. And teachers have to know when the progress reports have to go home. So they know that. The second thing all teachers know, whether they admit it freely or not, is how many days are left in the school year, right? And if they tell you they don't, they're not telling you the truth. Because there's always that guy or that person who walks into the teacher's lounge after the first day of school and says, there's 179 more days because it's an 180-day school year. So all teachers know that. So I said, okay, so you go to Starbucks 6 days a week, all during the school year. Yes, sir. So then I did multiplication on the board and I said, I timed 36 times 30 and showed her that she was spending over $1,000 a year on coffee. And she got really pale. And I thought, oh my goodness, this is not good. She's going to go home and her parents are going to be mad because I told her she was spending too much money. But they didn't. So that was the fall. So I came back to the class in the spring and I said, I was telling them all about the things that I'm sharing with you now. And between classes, she came bouncing in the room and she's like, hey, I'm the coffee girl. And I was like, oh, hi, how are you? How's things going? She's like, I want to let you know that when you came to class last fall, that I went home and talked to my parents. And I was like, uh-oh, here it comes. And she said, no, it's a good thing. And we realized I was spending too much on coffee. And I was like, oh, that's great. She goes, I'm only going to Starbucks 1 day a week now. I was like, wow, what happened? She goes, well, my parents went out and bought me a really nice coffee maker to use. And so I'm brewing coffee at my house. And my friends are actually coming to my house and we kind of do it together. And so I'm saving the money, all my allowance. And so far I've saved over $500. And I was like, wow, that's great. And she's a junior. And I said, well, are you going to keep saving? Do you have a goal in mind? And she said, yeah, here's my goal. Whatever I save this year, my parents are going to match and add a little bit more, and they're going to buy me a car to drive my senior year of high school and then take to college. And so in that scenario, just by making the smallest of changes in your behavior, you can affect great results. So those are spending leaks that you need to be aware of. So you can see, sometimes if we make the smallest of adjustments in our life, we can have great impact. And that's sort of why it's important to set goals. Because once we're aware of where we're spending our money, we can make impacts. Remember I talked to you about, that $20, and how it seems insignificant? Well, this is an example of where you can apply $20 into your debt payment and it will have this kind of impact. Let's say, for example, you go and you buy a home entertainment system, television, soundbar, all the, tricks and things, and you can put it on a store credit card that has 18% interest. All right. If you just pay the minimum payment, because what you'll get is a bill and it'll say, 4% of the balance. So you'll pay $80 the first month, 79, then 77, and so on and so forth. If you just follow their repayment plan at 18% interest, it will take you 9.5 years to pay off that $2,000 entertainment center. You will pay back $1,100 in interest. And what will happen, so that entertainment system will actually end up costing you a little over $3,100. But if you just take that $20 that you saved from eating out and apply it to that initial $80 payment and you stick to that payment, you will pay off that entertainment system in 2 years, which means you will save 7.5 years of your life making payments by paying just above a little bit extra. You will also save about $720 in interest just by paying a little bit extra. So where you can squeeze out a little bit extra every month, that is important. Now, what you don't want to have happen, and this is a common fault people have, is they get in this frenzy and they start throwing as much as they can at the beginning of the month at all their bills. And then about 2/3 of the way through the month, they're out of money. and then they have to keep using their credit cards that they were trying so hard to pay off. And so what you want to do is you want to start small. You know, 5, 10, 12, $14, whatever you can work. Pay a little bit extra, see if that works. And then if that's fine and you make it through that month, see if you can squeeze out a little bit more. Because in the end, by paying a little bit extra, whether it's to your car loan or your mortgage, it's going to have real dollar savings on the interest that you pay. Does that make sense? Here's a place you can go to check your credit cards, to see what's on the market. It's called creditcardtuneup.com. It's not owned by any financial institution. There are ones that are out there that are owned solely by financial institutions. This is one Clark Howard endorses, and you can generate the best 0% balance transfer offers. You can look for rewards. You can look for miles. You can just look for best interest rates. You can shop your cards against what's currently on the market. And here's the thing. If you find something you like, you can always call your current carrier and say, hey, these people want to give me this credit card at this interest rate or with this perks. Can you match it? Well, you know what? If they want to keep you as a customer, they will try and match it. Now, you have to be willing to move on and go to the new company, but that's called actively shopping your credit cards, okay? You need to go and be a steward because you know what? You might get a better interest rate out of it, all right? Always shop around. A few things I want to caution you about. Loans against your retirement accounts. You never want to take a loan against a retirement account because the tax implications are massive. Say, for example, you have a 401k or 403b where tax is deferred. Your tax hit will be between 40 and 50% of what you take out. So if you're going to take out $10,000, it's going to actually cost you close to $20,000 to do that because of the taxes you're going to have to pay on that. We will work with you at the credit union to come up with other financing opportunities or consolidation of your accounts. If you have bad credit, avoid some of the common pitfalls, okay? Credit repair clinics. Credit repair clinics do not much else besides make the person who gives them wealthier. For example, they're going to do one of two things that I've run across. They're going to either wipe your credit, which means everything below your name is going to be wiped out, which is not going to help you to get a loan. Or they're going to tell you, hey, we'll negotiate on your behalf for pennies on the dollar, which sounds like a great concept. But what you don't know going in is they tell you, don't pay your bills for 3 months, and then we'll go to the creditors who are thirsty for some sort of repayment and negotiate on your behalf. Well, here's the thing about that. While that's a temporary short-term solution, go back to what I told you about the 5 factors of your credit score. What's going to happen by not paying your bills for 3 straight months is your credit score is going to tank. And if anything in the next 3 to 5 years comes up in your life, no one will lend to you because you've just destroyed your credit score. So you have to work, those are not your options. We will sit down and give you some options at the credit union. Advance fee loans, rent to owns, title loans, title pawn, not your friend. They may have a sign out there that says 8.5% interest, which you're thinking, hey, that sounds like a decent rate. Let me see if I apply. But what they don't tell you is that's a monthly interest rate. So your interest rate might be over 100%. That's why people who get title pawns really rarely, if ever, get their titles back. It's a money generator. Pawn shops, high interest debt consolidation, or debt settlement. We have options at the credit union. We can help you consolidate and get into a better place. I get calls and emails all the time. People at certain points in their life, we set up times to meet at the branch, and we work through scenarios. We will try and get you the best possible deal. Again, something that works for you, all right? We're going to talk a little bit about identity theft now. It's a very important issue because, as we all know, it seems all the time that there are hacks and data breaches that are going on. One of the first things you can do is get off mailing lists, okay? All of us, when we're at work, well, where's our mail? We either have a mailbox at the curb or a key for our mailbox. So here's the mailbox at the curb scenario. While there may be a person walking their dog in your neighborhood and the dog seems to be sniffing around your mailbox, well, they can easily open your mailbox and suddenly take out all your credit card offers and loan applications that you've been pre-qualified. And then they have your name and you have your address, and that's how they can steal your identity because they can contact and pretend to be you. So you want to get off mailing lists. Now, those of you who have keys, seems secure, but who else has keys? The mail people, maybe the property owner, if you're living in an apartment or a townhome or whatever, we have a communal thing, maybe a disgruntled former employee has a key. Again, who has access to your mail? That's why you want to get off the mailing list. So follow that scenario, and that's what you want to do is get off the mailing list. Who lives in a pineapple under the sea? SpongeBob, of course. But there's also a different pineapple that I want to make you aware of. And that's what you need to know about, because it's one of the things we're a very trusting society, and that's a great thing. It really is. It's a great thing, but sometimes we're too trusting. So in this scenario, that's a router, okay? And here's the thing. I was watching this fascinating video at the credit union as part of our security training, and this gentleman named Kevin Mitnick, okay? He was a well-known hacker in the 90s who spent time in jail and now owns his own security firm. He's taking what he learned to companies to help prevent things. Well, he did a scenario where he walked into a coffee shop and it had a backpack. He pulled out 2 computers, opened them up, and in the bag he had this thing it's a router, which is called a pineapple. And he made his own free Wi-Fi network at the coffee shop. And here's the cool thing, and thing that blew me away. You can name it whatever you want by setting up that Wi-Fi. You could name it AT&T Wireless or Verizon or whatever coffee shop name is. And if you go in and look at it and you're like, oh, hey, it's AT&T Wireless, it must be safe. Well, that's exactly what the hackers want to do. Because then if you're a college student or whatever, and you're looking at your bank accounts or on your Amazon account and paying things, you've just given all your data to them. You go on vacation. Free Wi-Fi is not your friend. I stress to people, you should never use free Wi-Fi. Here's why. You're at a hotel. Who sees all that data at the hotel? Okay? You're at an airport. Who's seeing all this data? Somebody could have made their own, whatever name of airport Wi-Fi, and you think, oh, it's free and it's secure. No, it's not. Okay? Free Wi-Fi is one of those things I just tell people, use your data. You just never can be too sure, okay? Another thing too, that we make a mistake is we overshare with people. Social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Snapchat. Having a great time at the beach, well, what are you doing? I'm not home. Come take my stuff, right? Always post things after you get back. Because if I Google your names, I'm pretty sure I can find your address out in less than 10 minutes. And while it may not be apply now, at some point, if you post that you're out of town on vacation, I can drive by your house, and maybe you have a security system, and maybe you have a dog, maybe not. But that's how they cultivate leads. That's how the bad people cultivate leads, is because you're oversharing on social media. And maybe, I have a secure account where all my friends, but do you really know all your friends? Is there a friend that maybe said, oh yeah, hey, remember we went to high school together? And you're like, yeah, I don't remember that person, but okay. And you friend them, and then you've given them access to all your personal information. So whenever I go somewhere, I tell people, don't tag me in anything until I get back home, okay? What we do is, hey, checking in at blank restaurant. Well, that's fine, but again, you're just saying, I'm not home, come take my stuff. We share way too much on social media. That's how things like this happen, okay? So just be cautious about what you share. When I get home, hey, had a great meal at so-and-so restaurant, great staff, enjoyed myself or whatever, had a great time on vacation last week, and here are a few pictures, okay? But I'm back home, all right? Finally, things I want you to consider, all right? retirement. You got to start thinking about retirement. I was reading this story in USA Today about a year ago, and it projected that graduating college seniors, by the time they get there, the retirement age is going to be 75. Okay? Just because we're living longer. Social Security was never meant to fund people 30 years of their retirement. You know, when it was formed, people lived to 66. So between the benefits not changing, things becoming more costlier, you know, by 2035, they said that if they don't make any changes, then they're only going to be able to pay 77 cents on a dollar to people in Social Security. You have to make adjustments to where your streams of income are coming. And Social Security is not your sole source of income. It might be $25,000. The average payout is $2,000 a month. Well, times 12 months, that's $24,000. That's not a lot to live on. And then they say, oh, well, I'll have Medicare. Well, then you have Medicare, but then you have to, there are different things. There's like Part D and donut holes and prescription plans, which can cost several $100s a month in addition just to the regular Medicare. You have to start planning for those things. Later in life, health costs for a couple average about $275,000. You have to start planning for these things. It's important. You also need to plan for holidays, vacations, repair bills, auto maintenance and accidents, an emergency fund. One of the things I believe very strongly is I call it buckets. And what I do is I structure my account. I have a savings account, I have a checking account, and then I have all these extra additional savings accounts. And what I do is I name them things like utilities, because I pretty much on a month-to-month basis know what my utility bills are going to run. Insurance, emergency fund, because you never know when your water heater is going to go out or something. And every month when I get paid, or every time I get paid, I move money from my checking account into my extra savings accounts. Why? So it's off the books. So then whatever's left in my checking account is a real dollar value that I know I can spend for the rest of the month. Because we sit there and we look, and let's say, for example, you have $750 in your checking account because you just got paid. Well, 670 of it is already spoken for, but you don't remember that. And then you start spending money. And then you get to the end of the month and you're like, oh, dang, I'm short. Well, by moving it out of the checking account temporarily, that helps structure me so that whatever's in the checking account is a real dollar value. And then what I do is when the bill comes due, I move it back from savings, back up to checking, and off it goes. It's just a way of helping me get through my month-to-month bills. And it's really brought structure and sanity to my life because then I'm not overspending. I'm spending what I have. All right? Finally, retirement planning, pre-tax dollars. This assumes if you have a $30,000 income and start as young as possible, all right, and put into the system for over 40 years at a 7.5% return rate, you will end up with over $1 million in retirement, okay, in just that one fund, okay? You need to start making those things, making those decisions at the sooner the better. And again, every year, if you get a pay raise, add 1%. Okay, max out. Make sure you're getting your company match. Do all the things because that money is what you're going to be needed later in life. I want to thank you all for coming today. I hope you enjoyed the information. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to us. We're here to serve you, and have a great day.